Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's episode, I'll be taking you through my experience with interviews, candidate attorneys interviews specifically. So I am starting to script, especially where I am talking about videos that can be like what I'm talking about when I'm making rather videos that can be beneficial and educational to other people. So I'm trying to script those because in as much as I'm just talking about my experience and it's rather a story, there is some educational level to it. I don't want to be mixing stuff and forgetting other stuff like I always do. I prepare like a presentation rather of what I want to talk about, and if you would like to have a copy of this presentation, you can just let me know down the comments and I'll send a copy to you. I wanted to talk about my experience with candidate attorneys interviews, and it took me so long to talk about my experience with interviews for candidate attorney when I have not secured a position. This might be helpful to you. I think there is a point in you knowing how to prepare, what to expect in an interview, seeing that I have been there. I've been there before. So if you've never been interviewed, this video will be much helpful to you, because I remember when I went for my first interview, it's like I don't even know what to expect. But let's get into the video. So there are 3 things that you need to wait, let me congratulate you. Before we even go into this video, I just want to say good luck if you are applying for those who are still applying for the candidate attorneys positions. All the best, all the best. And I know that there are some of you that are probably watching these videos because they've already gotten that invite for the interview. So to you, congratulations and all the best, because that's not the end of the road. You still need to interview. So congratulations, but all the best as well. There are 3 things that you need to identify or be cognizant of before you even walk into the interview. So you need to first know the size of the firm. What size of the firm are you going to interview for? Who is going to be interviewing you, the type of the interviewer, and also the number of interviews that will be required for you to finally get that contract and sign it. So with types of interviews you might be interviewed by an agency, an agent from an agency company. You might be interviewed by a recruiter of the firm, or you may be interviewed by a partner or a director of a firm. An agent, these are third parties that will be representing a law firm. So they are representing this law firm. They're looking for people, for candidates for this firm. So they have a mandate from the firm to say that this is the type of a person, of a candidate we are looking for. So what they do is they would go out looking for those people, and once they find them, they will interview them, and if you're successful, then you will go through a second round of interview with the firm. So it is important to know that when you are being interviewed by an agent, this is not someone in the legal profession. So the reason why it is important for you to know the type of interviewer that is going to be interviewing you is that it helps you to know what types of questions you may ask at the end of the interview. At the end of every interview, you will be asked to raise questions, and it is always advised, don't just say you don't have a question, always have a question. So being able to identify, being able to know the type of the interviewer that is interviewing you helps you prepare questions. For example, now, I've spoken about who agencies are, what agencies are and who agents are. So the fact that these people are not working in the legal fraternity, you can't at the end of the interview ask legal questions. So it is not advisable that you'll be asking these people about, like, for example, a recent case or a recent development that is occurring in the legal space. Possible questions that you can expect from an agent are like general questions. So either like they'll ask you to tell them about yourself, where you grew up, like your background information, why you chose to study law. They may also ask you questions about your strengths and weaknesses, because remember, these people, when they look out for candidates, they're given like a job profile of the role, and they are looking for key aspects from every individual. So they will be asking you questions like, maybe they may ask you what interests you have, what are you interested in, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, so that they may be able to vet if you are the right candidate for the job that they're looking for the role rather, that they're looking to fill. Another type of interviewer you may be interviewed by a recruiter of the firm. So recruiters of firms are employees of the law firm, and they are responsible for the hiring of the staff of the law firm. So these people are not lawyers, they're not legal practitioners. Again, the reason why you need to understand the difference between different people who will be interviewing you is so that at the end of the interview, you are able to ask the right questions. So normally recruiters, because they're not legal practitioners, they may not be aware of the legal developments or current affairs in the legal space. Some may be, but you need to, don't assume that like some do, unless during the interview you can see that this person is well versed in the legal space, because these people work with lawyers, they work at a law firm, so chances are some of them are aware of what is happening in the legal space. But if nothing during the interview alarms you that these people are aware of current affairs, don't ask questions, don't ask law related questions, because they are tasked with the process of hiring people. You may ask questions like questions related to the process of the recruitment, but also just be present in the interview, so that you are able to have follow-up questions based on the progress of the interview. The possible questions you can expect from a recruiter of a firm, again, you can expect general questions like, you tell us about yourself, why you chose to study law, what interests you, your background information. Yeah, we spoke about general questions. And they may also ask you about like some of the questions that I've gotten is like, what is your favorite module and why? Some may ask if you are aware of any latest legal developments or cases, like generally current affairs. Are you aware of any current affairs? I was once asked a question about my awareness of AI and how do I think it affects the legal practice in general. So most of the times, if you are to be interviewed by an agent first, chances are you are not going to be, the second interview or the subsequent interview is not going to be like a recruiter. It's going to be directly, it's going to be like conducted by a director. Some firms will outsource their recruiting processes or functions to the agents. That's when you will find yourself involved with an agent. But if that is not the case, then you are more likely to be interviewed by the recruiters of the firms. Some firms don't have recruiters, so that's why you may be interviewing with an agent, for example, but some do have recruiters and they still outsource some of their functions to an agent. The third type of interviewer may be directors of the firm. So directors of the firm are generally leaders of the legal team of the firm, and they play like a managerial position, a managerial role rather, in the firm. A director of a firm would be a legal practitioner. So you don't want to be asking questions about the process of the recruitment process. And I mean, even if that question might be relevant, you might want to know that. I would advise that that is not the only question you have to ask, because these people are legal practitioners. They practice law every day, so it might be helpful to ask questions about the content, or what have you seen. Don't just ask any random questions. So your legal question might be spooked by something maybe that you saw on their website. Maybe they were working on a case, or they were reporting on a certain development in law. So you might want to ask questions based on that. For example, you don't want to be coming across as if you are gauging their knowledge of the law. Yeah, so directors, they are your potential. You might be interviewed by your potential principal. So these are people that, should you be given an offer, there's a possibility that one of them, or whoever's interviewing that director, might be your principal at the end of the day. So when you ask questions, you want to be asking a question that is fit for a senior legal practitioner. I hate those, by the way. I hate those. No two firms are the same. So in some firms, you might find out that a director is also playing a role of a recruiter. And if that is the case, then questions like the next step in the recruitment process might be relevant to ask that director, because they are acting in their capacity as a recruiter and as a director. But I always advise that if it is a director, even though they act in that capacity of a recruiter, it is advisable that you always have some law related question you ask, even though you are asking questions relating to the recruitment process. Now, the possible questions that you can expect from a director are legal questions, law content related questions. So they would either give you a scenario, and that scenario might have to do with, now I am speaking from the experience that I've heard. I'm not saying that when you are going into an interview, these are some of the questions you will get. You may not be asked the questions that I was asked. So I'm just gonna tell you that so far with the interviews that I've heard, these are the questions they've asked me. Rather, I'm not saying specific questions, but I just wanna alert you that in what areas of law was I ever asked questions. I would be asked questions or given scenarios on content relating to the law of succession, the law of contract, the law of civil procedure. So with civil procedure, the questions you would get are like the difference between, what is your understanding of the difference between application and action proceedings, the difference between summary and default judgment, and the difference between a simple summons and a combined summons. Oh, but I also got a question last. They wanted to me, can you imagine? Maybe not, can you imagine? and embarrass myself. But they wanted me to lay out the process leading up to litigation, from the summons to the trial. So now that we have spoken about the time, knowing the time, having an idea of who's going to interview you, having an idea, you need to know who's going to interview you. Are you being interviewed by an agent? Are you being interviewed by a recruiter of the firm, or are you being interviewed by a director of that firm? So now we get into the size of the firm, but I also want to at the same time talk about the number of interviews, because I can't speak about one and not the other. First of all, the number of interviews you will get mainly depend on the size of the firm. So with a small firm, you will normally have one interview, and that interview will be conducted by your director. So that director, in most cases, they will be acting as both in their capacity as a recruiter and a director. But there was this small firm. So one of the small firms that I was interviewed by, this one. So in that interview, it was not just the director. I think it was 2 directors. Yes, it was 2 directors, and I don't remember. I know that they were yeah, I think it was 2 directors and an associate. Yeah, and an office manager. So that panel, when they interview you, they are most likely playing a role of like the managerial positions, but they are also playing the recruitment or the recruiter's role. So you have to take that into account when you ask questions at the end of the day. And normally with a small firm, you will have that one interview, and either you get the offer or not, or you're rejected. But with this particular small firm, I was told that, so I asked what the next what the next steps of the recruitment process were, and I was told that if I'm successful in that interview, shortlisted candidates will be required to participate in what looks like a werkwerk, but it was, I think, a 2-day, and apparently in that 2 days you would be, no, was it 2 days or a week? So yeah, you were required to participate in, I think it was a week, and it was going to be, I think it's a werkwerk. I mean, it's a werkwerk. It's a werkwerk. So you are going to participate in a werkwerk for a week, where you will be assessed. So what was going to happen was, if you are successful in that first round of interview, you were either shortlisted or rejected, right? If you are shortlisted, you are going to participate in a week long, it was a week vacation work, where you will be assessed. You will either be drafting summons, you'll be drafting pleas, you will be different types of pleadings, and there would be like a moot court and quite a number of activities, and then you will be assessed during that 5-day period, and then at the end of the day you are going to be offered a contract if they were happier with you. They were going to shortlist 10 people, and they were looking for 2 candidates. We move. We move. So like, I'm trying to paint a picture of what interviews, the process is like. out there. So it's not all law firms that small law firms that would have like one round of interviews. I wish that was the case. If the firm you are interviewing with is a big firm, at most, I've never come across a bigger firm that only required one interview. No, I know of a medium-sized firm, not a big firm. Yeah, so with big firms, you can expect to have a number of interviews. So the number of interviews will also depend on individual firms. With some firms, you will have a first interview. If you are successful, you'll be offered a werkwerk. If you are successful, you will have a second interview, and then if you are successful, then you get the offer. Some firms, you might be required to, so you send out your application. If they are happy with your application, they invite you to write a psychometric test. If you are successful in that psychometric test, you have your first interview. If you pass that test, then you get invited for a first interview. And if you are successful in that first interview, you get invited for werkwerk. If you are successful in the werkwerk, you get invited for a second interview, and then you get the offer. Also, you have firms that do not require or do not offer werkwerk. So in those interviews, firms, you have like a first interview. If you're successful, you are shortlisted, and then you get invited for a second round of interview, and then you get the offer. So first interviews are normally conducted by recruiters, and then the progressive or the subsequent interviews will be conducted by directors. Medium-sized firms. So a medium-sized firm can either take the tradition of a small firm or the tradition of a big firm. So either they will have like one interview like the small firms, like most small firms do, or they will have like your first interview, werkwerk, second interview, like the big firms do. Or they'll just have like a first interview. If you're successful, then you get a second interview, then you get the offer if you are successful. And I think that is it from me. That's what I wanted to share. I've had a number of interviews. I've been interviewed. I've had like a small firm interview experience. I've had a medium-sized firm interview, and I've also had like big firms interview experience. So I didn't want to share my experience because I'm not doing my articles. I'm not serving my articles. So for me, it was like, what knowledge or what benefit am I really imparting on you? If I'm not serving my articles, then surely what I know did not work for me. But if this video helps you to know what to expect in an interview, how to prepare for one, then I'm happy. If anything, there are people that have come to me and wanted some insights into what to expect when they are going for an interview, and those people got the jobs. And yeah, so I hope you do get the job, and I hope you do get the invite. My advice is prepare extensively. You must prepare questions, always have questions. Make sure that out of that interview you get clarity, because law firms are dirty. They will interview you, and if you're not shortlisted, they will never get back to you. So just try to source out from them, Okay, so when do I hear from you? So that you know that if you're not hearing from them within this time frame, then expect that your application is not successful. I mean, your interview is not successful, because some of them, most of them, almost all of them, they will ghost you. Especially, I've never been ghosted by a big five. Not a big five, guys, a big firm. I've never been ghosted by a big firm. I think the medium, most, I'm not saying that like the big firms will never ghost you. I'm saying that I've never been ghosted by a big firm. It's always the medium-sized firms and the small firms that will ghost you. So you always have to go back, go bona, and like, guys, okay, what is the status of my, like, how did I do? I've not gotten any feedback from you. Can I have my feedback? They don't get back to you. If anything, there was this particular firm where I was following up and they didn't have an answer for me, but Asicolab. So get clarity, because they will ghost you. Another thing is, do not ask questions whose answers are already on the website. So before you interview with the firm, make sure that you have consulted their website, so you know what is on their website, so that if you have a question that and the answer is on the website, you got your answer. You don't need to ask that in an interview. For example, most firms will have their recruitment process on their website, so you should not be asking questions like, are you going to be invited for a web work after this, or is it straight second interview and that's it? Because some firms would tell you clearly that on their website that the recruitment process is this: you apply, you get invited for an interview. If you are successful, they'll call you for a web work, and then it's going to take a week or two, and then from there, shortlisted candidates who will be invited for a second round of interviews, and then offers will be made according to who they're happy with. And that is it from me. And like I said, I'm trying to script my content and have like a spreadsheet. Not a spreadsheet, what did I say? Yeah, so I'm trying to script my content so that I do not mix up stuff and end up forgetting some stuff, especially content that can be helpful, content that is educational, that I think it's very important for you guys. I'm trying to script that and decompose it into a PowerPoint presentation. And if you are interested in having a copy of the spreadsheet, you can just let me know in the comment sections and I will email a copy to you. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching, and if you have watched up until this point, you are a sweetheart. I love you. I'll see you guys in the next video.